Looking inevitable that Michigan State will miss out on Kory Amachree, the local running back recruit, to Kansas. So where does MSU go from here?
You are Locked On Spartans, your daily podcast on the Michigan State Spartans, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
This episode of Locked On Spartans is brought to you by Monarch Money. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first year. Spartan friends, Spartan family, Locked On Spartans listeners, thank you all so much for tuning in to Locked On Spartans. It's your team in green and white 5 days a week. And shout out to all you everyday listeners. Thank you so very much for making this the first listen of your day. Please rate, review, subscribe, comment below your thoughts on the Michigan State Boston College game. That's right. We're 4 months ahead of it, but that's not going to stop us from talking about it here with AJ Black of Locked On Boston College in segments 2 and 3. Guys, this is something we're going to be doing in the offseason. Every week, we're going to sit down with an expert from Michigan State's Power 4 opponents and just get a little primer. See if they got better this offseason, see what their main storylines are, because when you got 12 regular season games, every single one counts. So stick around for that. But right now, yes, we are going to wade into the waters of recruiting, specifically the Kory Amachree saga yet again. And it's not really much of a saga. As we are recording this late Thursday night, nothing has changed from what we talked about on Tuesday. And that is that, yes, the 3-star or 4-star running back, any way you slice it, really talented player. We'll just leave it at that. How about that? Will that make everyone happy? The really talented player from Hazlitt, right down the road from East Lansing. The guy has been on campus a trillion times. He's going to be committing to Kansas. And we had our little meltdown a few days ago. If you want the longer, more emotionally charged episode, go back 2 days. You'll get all my thoughts about that. But I'll just try to boil it down here really quick before he commits at 3 p.m. at Hazlitt High School. Again, guys, looking like Kansas. If you go over to 24/7 Sports, Rivals on 3. Pretty much everyone is saying that it will be the Jayhawks winning this one. And the Cliff Notes is that, I'm not going to spin zone this one. That is a gut punch. This was a priority recruit for Michigan State. This isn't some kid they had buried so far down on the running back board, and they're like, who cares? No, this is a battle that they tried to win, and now they have lost. And not to Georgia, not to Alabama, not to Ohio State. No, to Kansas. A team whose best thing that they've done since Obama took office is getting a Liberty Bowl win 3 years ago. Awesome. Anyway, guys, I'm going to try to get over it. Come on, Matt. Batten down the hatches. You could do this. The other thing that I was really hung up on is, will Michigan State even be able to get a top 30 class now? Because it's one thing just to miss on one kid, not to overreact to just this small little moment in the recruiting cycle. But when you look at June and see who is visiting campus, there's not a lot of 4-stars. There aren't really that much highly rated 3-star kids where you can get all of them to commit. Let's say you get a 100% commit rate. Even that might not even get you in the top 30. And of course, they're not going to get a commitment of every single kid in June. So that was my two worries is Amachree is a really good player. First and foremost, I do love his tape. I love how versatile he is. And I would love for him to flip his commitment to Michigan State down the road here. But number two, this one's a gut punch optically. And in reality, of course, this isn't just what we're seeing. It's what we're living right now. And then number three is I do have concerns about how Michigan State does get in the top 30. But yeah, anyway, next steps now, guys. Will Michigan State still try to pursue him? I am led to believe that they are. Even if this kid still wanted to unofficially visit Michigan State in the future, it would take roughly about $4.97 of gas money for him to do it from Hazlitt. So, yeah, could he pop back on campus? Could he still be listening to Michigan State coaches? Very well possible, but I'm not going to hold out too much hope for that. So where does Michigan State go from here in the world of running back recruiting? Well, there are two names that have a little bit of sizzle around them as it pertains to their connections to Michigan State. And the first one is one of those kids that will be visiting this upcoming June. He's hailing in from the great state of Nebraska. It is Nelsyn Wheeler. He told Spartans Illustrated, this is per Ryan O'Blennis, that he will be visiting the weekend of June 13th through the 15th. And a little bit about Nelsyn Wheeler. If you want to go on 24/7 Sports, it's not an impressive ranking by any means. He's outside the top 1,000, but don't let that distract you from the fact that this kid is lightning. I mean, 5'9", 200-pound running back. He's got interest from Cincinnati, Illinois, Wisconsin, Kansas. So it's not like, Michigan State is just duking out a bunch of Big Sky and MAC schools for his services. Certainly they like something about this kid. And here's what they might like is that in the 100-meter dash, this kid runs a 10.8. Last year as a sophomore, that got him 6th place at the state finals in Class A for the state of Nebraska. So this kid is a speed demon. Look, we talked about Amachree. What would make him great at Michigan State is that, he had a really good 100-meter time. I think it was 10.9. So if there's any solace, it's that they're turning the page. They're trying to get his services. He's just as fast, if not even a little faster than Amachree. So that's one name out there right now, guys. The other name that popped up earlier this week, this came from Alan True of 24/7 Sports, Michael Dukes, who's currently committed to Toledo right now. Well, he got an offer from Michigan State, and it was pretty quickly reported on after that he will try to visit Michigan State at some point in June. No hard date set for that yet. But just like I said, he's committed to Toledo. He did so in February. Now, this is going to be a recruitment that's not just going to be Spartans versus the Rockets, okay? Like Michael Dukes, he could see his recruitment pick up a little bit here, and it already has because he is visiting Rutgers this weekend. So he is, getting other Power 4 attention. But this kid from Detroit King, right now the number 33 ranked kid in the state of Michigan and just inside the cusp of top 100 running backs in the nation. So, look, take it one of two ways. It's that from Amachree to who's next on the board, there is a pretty sizable gap as far as recruiting rankings go if you put a lot of stock into that. And surely no fans have opinions on how much stock they put into recruiting rankings. But the other way you could take it is that, it's just next man up down the board. Okay, Amachree's off the table. We still got Wheeler visiting. All right, Michael Dukes, you're next to bat. We're going to offer you. You're local. We like what you see from you. He also tested pretty well at the Under Armour regional camp down in Ohio not too long ago. So that's the plan right now, is to get these two kids, because from everything I've heard, everything I've read, everything I've listened to, they are going to try to get 2 running backs in this class. So really quick before we start breaking down the week 2 game against Boston College with AJ Black, which, by the way, awesome host over there at Locked On Boston College. 2 other random topics I do want to talk about. Both have to do with scheduling. One for football, one for men's basketball. And I just whistled right by this. I am so sorry I completely missed this, guys, but perhaps an Easter egg was dropped by Michigan State's social media team on Wednesday, because they tweeted out that it is 100 days until MSU football kicks off. And guys, when you do the math, that's right, 100 days from that post, that's not that Saturday. No, that is Friday. So nothing has been officially announced yet, but maybe they know something that the rest of us don't, that Michigan State is yet again for the 4th year in a row going to be kicking off their season at home under the lights in Spartan Stadium. Now, that'd be great because, well, first and foremost, I do love the Friday night Labor Day games. You go to the game, you watch it. If you got Labor Day plans, go ahead, leave from the stadium straight to your cottage or lake house or wherever you want to go. It is an awesome way to kick off the season. And more importantly, guys, your Spartans are 11-0 at home on Friday night games. So hopefully that is announced soon. Now, last year, of course, that's one of the many games that have been openers on Friday night. The Florida Atlantic game was announced to be moved from Saturday to Friday on May 30th. So we're getting kind of in that zone where the news could be inevitable somewhat soon. And in other scheduling news, this one for men's basketball, guys, down at the Fort Myers Tip-Off Classic Bonanza, Palooza, whatever they're going to call it this year, hey, we got another opponent. It's already been said that they will face North Carolina on Thanksgiving. Now, North Carolina, they're going to play St. Bonaventure, and they were looking for the 4th team in this one to see who Michigan State was going to play first, and it is East Carolina on that Tuesday, so a little day break between games. So no matter what happens in that game, it will be MSU versus North Carolina. You will get that marquee matchup on Thanksgiving. So just a little bit about the Pirates right here. I'm not going to give a full breakdown, but they went 19-14 last year, 10-8 in the American Athletic Conference. They were just the epitome of fine. But one problem for the Pirates, they've lost all 5 of their of their top contributors from last year's team, whether it's graduation or the transfer portal. So yeah, you hope Michigan State could beat East Carolina. originally, but with that thrown in, yeah, you hope that MSU can pounce on these guys. So that's East Carolina. That's Kentucky in the Champions Classic. That's North Carolina on that Thursday. And then Duke at home are the announced non-conference games so far. All right, guys, close your eyes. Fast forward yourself into 4 months because, yes, we are going to be talking about this Week 2 matchup against Boston College here. But first, you need to talk your ears off about Monarch Money. You guys ever check your bank account and wonder, now hold on here, where did all my money go? Well, between dining out, online shopping, and entertainment, it is easy to lose track, and that is where Monarch Money comes in, your personal CFO, giving you full visibility and control over your finances. Now, Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app, it is a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one convenient place so you stop just managing money and start building your wealth. Guys, when I started using Monarch, I realized just how much I was spending on food delivery. And now, guys, I'm budgeting smarter. I'm saving more. It is fantastic. So do what I do. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at Monarch Money for 50% off your first year. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Again, guys, monarchmoney.com. Folks, Matt Sheehan of Locked On Spartans over there, AJ Black of Locked On Boston College, and you might think, isn't this a little too early to be breaking down a game that's going to be happening in more than 100 days from now? But please, come on, guys, never. Now, AJ, Week 2 for our Michigan State Spartans, obviously pretty early in the season for you guys as well. What are the stakes going to be for the Eagles in this game? Just take us away.
So it's Week 2. Yeah, BC starts the season off against Fordham. And that's one of those games where you just really can't get a gauge where BC's going to be at. So this is really like the first test. This is like, there's going to be a lot of changes. BC doesn't have Donovan Nazaraku anymore, who, was All-American. What's the defense going to look? I know, right? Yeah. What's this defense going to look like? We won't know in Week 1 because it's Fordham. So I think on the road where BC struggled last year, the offense, will it click? Where the offensive line looks a lot different? Will BC be able to put together a game plan that could lead to a win on the road? I think that's going to be something that we're going to be watching for.
And for the Michigan State side of things too, like I hop in the time machine, and this is only a few years ago, but we had a home and home series with Arizona State where before you look at it, it's like, we're not going to sharp you in the wins, but this is a home and home series that Michigan State should certainly take care of. Kind of in a way where, hey, Boston College, okay, of the Power 4 teams, those are gettable at least, all right? Like, this isn't a home and home against Georgia, all right? Here we go. Mm-hmm. We could get both, and, well, so far, we're 0 for 1. And then, well, if you go 0 for 2, that's not going to spell good things here for Michigan State. Also, just the vibe around the program, too. Like, there is a lack of juice around this program, AJ, and if you want your fans, if you want the energy to get back into East Lansing for the first time since 2021 when Kenneth Walker was running the ball, you do need a win against Boston College. Not to say it's going to make or break the entire season and all the goals this team has laid in front of them, but you cannot, absolutely not, be 1-1, or dare I even say 0-2 at home 2 weeks into the season. So that's what the stakes are here for Michigan State.
Yeah, I mean, I have to imagine the optics around losing to BC, and I'm not doing this to bash BC. I just know where schools are at, right?
Sure.
To lose the way you lost last year with, it was a very, very tough loss, right? Like you had that last minute touchdown pass and interception in the end zone. To do it then to follow that up with a home loss to BC, I think that would be a real tough pill to swallow for Michigan State fans.
Yeah, and look, I didn't come on the show, happy that we lost or anything like that, but that was one of the losses. It didn't take me so long to get over because Childs, he threw 3 interceptions that game. It probably should have been 8 if you watched that game. They had a lot of passes bouncing off BC defenders' hands, but it was also the storyline of, young quarterback, one of his first starts, especially on the road. Okay, you know what? He learned a lot from this one. He tried to do way too much. He will learn from this, whereas now, that's out the door. None of those storylines are around. This is an experienced quarterback now. You cannot have growing pains, especially at home, and I would imagine, and I would hope, I'm going to start doing my anti-rain dance right now, that it won't just be a soggy evening or afternoon whenever they play this game. So,
God, I remember I was there covering that game, and I'm looking at all the fans, and I had a couple other media members that went to go visit a friend or something, and they came back drenched.
I'm sure he
and
did.
I was like, oh man, those are the worst as a fan, and I'm sure the players didn't like it that much either.
Yeah, right.
But it was also the red bandana game too.
Yep.
And that obviously has a lot of special meaning to BC. So that was a real, like, an interesting night. I don't want to say weird because red bandana is not weird. Rain,
of course, yeah.
Night game, just an odd ending to that game. It was interesting.
A lot of circumstances, yeah. So one reason that, we're going to get you and a bunch of other Power 4 opponents experts on this show is just to check in how everyone did in the offseason. Because, of course, this day and age in college football, what you do in the spring and the winter is almost as important as it seems of what you do in the fall. So, AJ, point blank, broad question here. Did you guys get better this offseason? Did it treat the Eagles well?
So, before I came on the show, I was thinking, how do we want to approach this?
Mm-hmm.
And BC played Michigan State so early in the year last year. And I was like, almost wanted to do a segment on, so what happened after that? Right. So, because it was a very eventful end of the season for BC. You saw Thomas Castellanos, he throws the game-winning pass. He quit on the team. He got benched. He's down in Florida State now. And honestly, you asked the question, did they get better? Without Castellanos, and I've knocked him enough. I don't need to do it anymore.
Mm-hmm.
I think BC's better without him just because he wasn't the right fit. Like, he just could not. He's not a passing quarterback, and that's what Bill O'Brien wants. So BC they bring in Grayson James at the end of last year. He wins 3 out of his last 4 regular season games, gets the offense clicking. They almost beat SMU on the road. They looked pretty good. He's not the most explosive quarterback. He's more of a game manager.
Okay.
Does some things right. They go in the offseason, they go to Alabama and land a 4-star transfer that Bill O'Brien had committed to Nick Saban and Dylan Lonergan. And you know what? You see the stories of 4 stars that don't play, and then all of a sudden, you're like, why do they get that? I was skeptical. I was like, is this guy going to be anything like what you expect him to be? Like, is he going to live up to that? He did. Like, this spring, he very, very much is in contention to start the season. I don't know. O'Brien has not said who's going to start for BC. You can make an argument for both. And that's going to be something to watch. And I think this is a really interesting storyline for BC and Michigan State. I was talking to somebody on my show the other day, and we were saying that the Fordham game might honestly be an audition for the two of them.
Okay.
Where one of them starts the first half and one plays the second half.
Yep.
And then Michigan State could be the first game where BC has an established starting quarterback. Will it be the experienced Grayson James, or will it be the one with the higher ceiling in Dylan Lonergan? We'll find out. So I think that's the big storyline around BC going into the season.
Sure.
I think it does make them better, but as I said, there's some other pieces that are concerning too, like losing it as Araku. They lost 3 offensive linemen to the NFL draft.
Yep.
There's some other pieces. So I'm not sure if they're better, but I think that they're in position to. There's different things that you'll see that I think will be better than what they
that's where we all are right now, like us bloggers, podcast hosts, or you do great work at 24/7 Sports, of course. Like, we're just in there is reason to believe mode right now.
Exactly.
Hopefully we'll get a few more answers when August rolls around and you start getting more clips out of fall camp and everything. But there is reason to believe. But there's going to be a step forward for the quarterback position for Boston College there. Really quick, you said that you've hammered on the Thomas Castellanos thing, long enough, but I would be remiss if I didn't ask, because I think this quote came out within the last week. Mike Norvell lauded Castellanos for his leadership, just how great of a teammate he is. When I read that, I said, when I talked to my good friend AJ Black over here, I got to ask him his thoughts on that. Did you fall out of your chair reading that, or?
I can't tell you how many people I texted that with a couple emojis after that going, what? Sure. Like, this dude just quit on his team. Like, he literally got benched and then said, peace, I'm out. And there's no other way. In his own words, he said that. He said it himself. Like, after the end of the season, I got bashed by a bunch of people. They're like, oh, you got to hear what his perspective is. There's probably another side of the story. I'm like, sure, whatever. Castellanos was on, I think it was one of the, Eric, what's his face, McLean. I think he was on his show, and he said, I got benched, and then Auburn called me, so I entered the portal. I'm like, so you quit.
Well, there it is.
You did it. It's right there.
Yeah, that's nice. Great.
So,
awesome.
whatever. Like he's going to be fine in Florida State. You know, like it's Gus Malzahn's a better fit for him, and I wish him the best.
Sure, very, very diplomatic of you. Look at that.
I have to say this too. I was a quick side story.
Sure.
I one game a year I go as a fan I'm a BC grad. I take my kids. I have a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old. My kids loved him.
Okay.
2 weeks before he got benched, I went to his NIL store and bought both of my kids Thomas Castellanos shirts because they both wanted them. They have not worn them once. And then last week, I was telling my wife I want a solo stove for my backyard. My 6-year-old, I don't know where he picked this up. I go, yeah, we got a lot of like leaves and stuff back there. He goes, yeah, and I can burn my Castellanos jersey. I'm like, okay. All right.
Yes, he is ready to be a sports fan. Oh,
He's ready.
Love that. Oh, I love the energy from that kid. That is excellent. We had a few Michigan State fans that they frequented the NIL store, especially at the end of the season. Got a shirt for Trey Holloman. He was a basketball player here. Did fantastic things, and then 2 days after the season's over, sayonara. Yeah, NC State. So the NIL store. Get on over there and spend all your money. It's never to be one to backfire.
Exactly.
So. Perfect. Look, I'm glad you did mention the offensive line because I did want to get to this, and this is just because, well, that's really what helped you guys last year. Really strong offensive line, and that's just kind of known under Bill O'Brien coach teams is that you will have an adequate, at worst, offensive line. Three to the draft, right? Or at least 2 were drafted, and then another one was an honorable mention. Any way you slice it, like 3 really good offensive linemen. Is there like youth right behind them that you feel confident in? Did you guys have to go out to the transfer portal and shop for a few linemen, or what's it looking like in the trenches? Because us Michigan State fans have learned the last few years how important it is to have a good offensive line. It's been just a great lesson we've had to deal with.
Yeah, I mean, I think when I look at the offensive line, it's all about development. And you go, if you look at BC, 2022 was a complete disaster, and it was because of the offensive line. They had a new offensive line coach, Dave DeGuglielmo, who was part of, he's with the Patriots. He had this huge history.
Gotcha.
Just didn't click. And a lot of the guys that you saw last year were there when he was there, and they were young. Matt Applebaum, who was with the Miami Dolphins, he's been with BC for years now. He develops guys, and I think he does a really good job of developing guys. So he's got, just watching the spring, I think the system is there where you're going to get the next guys up. And you've got like a Jude Bowery who played last year, was banged up a lot, but he is very, very talented at left tackle. Okay. You've got some other guards coming up as well. Will they be as good as last year? Because I thought the offensive line did really well last year. I don't want to say that they're going to be that way, but I also don't think they're going to be a major hindrance for BC. I don't think it's going to be like something that's going to hamstring them this year. I think it will definitely be a step back, but I think the talent is there. Then you mentioned about the portal. They really didn't do much. They grabbed a kid from Merrimack who's an underclassman, but again, developmental player. He's going to take probably a couple of years to get in. And then they got and I haven't been able to see him yet because he hasn't played, a kid from Princeton, a center from Princeton, who was a grad student. So he's more seasoned, but but he's like a lot of the Ivy League kids that come in, that they don't come till the summer because he had to graduate. So he didn't practice this spring, so I don't know what he's going to be like.
Interesting. So on the defensive side of the ball, and I've tried to pronounce this guy's name just in preparation for this. Ezeraku, was that his name?
You got it. Yep.
Okay. Nailed it. It's probably only because he had 18 sacks against Michigan State last year, and it was on the screen every other snap, basically. But like that's a pretty sizable drop, I would imagine. Mm-hmm. Where does the strength of the defense lie now that he's out the door?
Yeah, I mean the line I think is the biggest concern on BC on the defensive side. Like you got Quintavious Hutchins, they call him Q. He lined up opposite Ezeraku. Second half of the season had a pretty good start, but I need to see it again. That's a group that I deep inside of me I'm going, are they gonna be able to do it? The secondary, I mean, you saw at the end of the game. Max Tucker. They're getting Amari Jackson back. He played against Michigan State last year, then blew out his knee like a week or two later. He was one of the starting corners. But their safeties are really good. KP Price is probably going to be all ACC, and Carter Davis and Omar Thornton. So they got a lot of good talent in the back half. I think the secondary is, I feel, the most confident in. And they've got a really good linebacker in Davion Crouch. He had 14 tackles in the Pinstripe Bowl, and he's a good player, and I think this is going to be a big year for him.
Man, this is just, we're two peas in a pod right now because our defensive line is probably the biggest question mark on either side of the ball going into this season. They left a lot to be desired last year. They were third worst in the Big Ten at sacks. I think they went 6 games in a row at one point, AJ, without a sack, and that was the longest stretch in FBS football for like the last 20 or 25 years. So we did history here last year. Woo, it was great, but they did very little in the portal. They got a lot of project developmental kind of scratch off lottery ticket pieces. Like one guy's a 4-star from Wisconsin. Great. Never played a snap there in his 1 year for the Badgers. They got a guy that, played sizable amount as a redshirt freshman, but from Air Force of the Mountain West. That's going to be a little different than, Big Ten ACC football. And we got to see something here. And, you look at what you want to see in week 2. Obviously, for us Michigan State fans, we've been jaded by the offensive line in years past. We want answers on that immediately. But, yeah, even against Western Michigan, our week 1 opponent, if we ain't getting to the quarterback there, if we're not going to get to the quarterback against Boston College, who's still kind of breaking in a new-ish offensive line, I mean, look, point blank, the road doesn't get much easier after that. You got to see something from the trenches here. And, I know it's the least sexy thing to talk about in football is just the hogs in the trenches. But, my God, we have learned over here in East Lansing how important that is to football.
Just watching it was the lesson you get from watching that Super Bowl, right? Watch Philly beat the snot out of Kansas City in the trenches on both sides of the ball. And you talk to good coaches and they'll tell you it's those two spots that are in a good quarterback. They're going to be the keys to winning games. So yeah, I can totally see that.
Yeah, because our offense hopefully should be decent enough. I mean, like we said, Aiden Childs, he comes back for another year as a starter. He was very raw last year, especially the last time he faced the Eagles. You talk loosey-goosey with the ball. Ooh, he was winging that thing all over the place.
Yeah,
no regard to humanity. It was dangerous. And I do think he really did learn from that game. His turnovers did take a turn south, for the better for Michigan State at the end of the year. But yeah, you got to hit the ground running. You got to have early chemistry, not just with Nick Marsh, who's one of the better receivers that we'll see in East Lansing, but also the new guys, Amari Kelly, Kory Amachree. Can he get early chemistry with those guys going? So I'm just so excited to get answers from this game, assuming, knock on wood, we get by Western Michigan as 17.5-point favorites, but never say never, I guess. But I need answers, AJ.
You know what I was thinking of too? You just mentioned all your wide receivers. That was the other key of that game too. I remember before that game, there was injury reports, and it was
everyone,
3 or 4 in Michigan's top 5 wide receivers were out.
I was playing slot receiver that game. That's how desperate they got. They called me and said, "Can you drive over here in 6 hours?" I said, "Yes, I can." So that was bad. Yeah, I know. Yeah. Oh, great times. I hope for the first time in a long time, we're actually somewhat healthy by week 2. Not to say that's our only issue that we've ever had here the last few years, but that's just been a nice little cherry on top of all the storylines here in East Lansing. So, AJ, should we do this again in 4 months? What do you think? Go a little bit more in depth, some more concrete answers?
Definitely think so. We'll talk more X's and O's and what is actually, you'll actually hope. I mean, I doubt it. Bill O'Brien is, hopefully he's not going to follow what Bill Belichick's doing right now because.
Depends.
The crazy thing about this whole story is Bill O'Brien's chief of staff is Burge Nigerian, who was Bill Belichick's right-hand man for 30 years. And the joke, the story right now, a lot of people have been saying it is he's gone and she's kind of taken that role. And so he's a tough cookie. I've never talked to him, but I know the things that he's put in place. Right. So he's put a kibosh on I can't talk about who first stringers are and injury reports. And they're very, very tight right now with that kind of stuff. So hopefully I'll be able to we'll have the Fordham game, but maybe I'll be able to tell you who's going to be starting against the Spartans.
Exciting. Look at that. There we go. Perfect.
Yep.
But hey, until next time, AJ, this is awesome. Guys, if you want more AJ Black, he's over there at Locked On Boston College. And for some reason you want more of me right here, Locked On Spartans. Either way you slice it, we do this 5 days a week right here in the Locked On Podcast Network. Now, guys, depending on what time you're listening to this, go enjoy your Memorial Day weekend. Let's take a time to think of those lost, of course. Let's remember the reason for the weekend here. But until then, guys, take care of yourselves.